My friend, today I have a practice plan and system for you that's so stupidly simple but extremely effective that it might potentially make you a little bit angry because you didn't implement it into your daily routine so far. So what I will show you today is a very simple 5-step plan that has the potential to change your guitar playing forever, because today's practice plan is not so much about extreme technique and reaching the highest speed possible. What I will show you right now has the potential of unlocking the full fretboard for you in just a couple of days, which will immediately result in better, more professional sounding licks. You will always exactly see and finally understand everything that you do on the guitar, and it will also be much easier to learn and understand any kind of song in the future, because you will have a rock solid overview of the neck without grinding all the annoying and possibly quite boring music theory. So today's 5-step plan is all about arpeggios and how you can very easily use them to play all across the neck, resulting in super interesting lines. Because most guitarists are practicing arpeggios completely wrong, so just memorizing one shape, like this very common minor shape, and then just using this one for the rest of their lives. Allow me to show you something much more interesting. Here's step number 1 and exercise number 1. Alright, this might have looked a little bit trippy because you heard the same thing 3 times, but it looked different every single time, right? So for the first step, I want you to start out with minor 7th arpeggios. Those consist out of the root, the minor 3rd, the perfect 5th, and the minor 7th. Those are the names of the intervals you will be playing. So root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, minor 7th. But here's the thing, instead of just remembering this one shape, to really unlock the neck, I want you to see multiple possibilities of playing the same arpeggio. For step number 1, we will still always start with the root note, but you will internalize different ways of playing the arpeggio. So for the first one, I started with the root note with my index finger. Then I played the minor 3rd right here, so on the 8th fret on the E string, the perfect 5th right here on the 7th fret on the A string, and the minor 7th on the 5th fret on the D string. But for the second shape, I was still playing the root note right here, but I was playing the minor 3rd on the A string instead of the E string. Exact same note, but different fingering. Then I went up here for the perfect 5th again, and right here for the minor 7th. And for the last shape, once again the root note here on the 5th fret, but minor 3rd right here again, and then on the D string, the perfect 5th, and the minor 7th to top it off. Now you might ask yourself, why play the exact same thing with different fingerings? It sounds exactly the same. The reason for this is it will really open up your phrasing and also your fretboard visualization. Because you will start to think of arpeggios not just as these shapes that you memorize, you will actually see the intervals that you're playing surrounding the root note, and you will see multiple different options for the same intervals that you might want to play. And as you know, on the guitar, it's very much about fingerings. And studying those different options for fingerings when it comes to the basic minor 7th arpeggio will already make your licks more interesting and your fretboard visualization better. So here's step number 2 and exercise number 2. So for this step, we're gonna do the exact same thing for major shapes. So for the major 7th arpeggio, you still have the root note and the perfect 5th in there, so nothing changes for those 2 notes. But now you have a major 3rd instead of a minor 3rd, and a major 7th instead of the minor 7th. So I'm still always starting out with the root note of the arpeggio, but then I move to the major 3rd, perfect 5th, and major 7th, and I do that for all the 3 positions that you already learned in step number 1. And when you practice the shapes like this, you will immediately develop a feeling for each one. For example, the last one is great for sweep picking. So it's very easy to sweep that kind of shape. It's much more difficult with the others, although those are the same notes, but the fingering makes a huge difference. So for your daily practice plan for steps 1 and 2, I want you to play the different shapes from the root note concerning the minor 7th arpeggio and the major 7th arpeggio, but not just on the E string. I also want you to do that starting with the root note on the A string and on the D string, and eventually on all strings. If you dedicate 10 to 15 minutes to both of these steps every day, it will be extremely beneficial for your creativity and also for your fretboard visualization. But let's move on to much more interesting things. Here's step number 3 and exercise number 3 for you. So this already sounded more practical, right? The reason for that is I was not always starting with the root note of the arpeggio, which is the next very important step in your routine. I like to call this one the starting point exercise because for the first shape you were starting out with the root, so this shape should look familiar by now. Root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, minor 7th. But then I was playing the exact same notes and technically the exact same arpeggio, an A minor 7th arpeggio, starting from the minor 3rd instead of the root note. So when I start from the 2nd note of the arpeggio, the shape looks like this. Once again, the exact same notes, but in a different order. I'm starting the arpeggio on the 2nd note, which is the minor 3rd. Then I'm starting the arpeggio on the perfect 5th. And then for a satisfying ending, I already conclude by starting on the root note again in the next octave. So here's the full exercise. Notice that this is not a pentatonic lick. Visually it looks quite like a minor pentatonic lick, but it sounds much more interesting because it's an arpeggio that started on the root 3rd, then on the 5th, and then on the root 1 octave higher. Shape 1 starting from the root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, and root 1 octave higher. So this exercise is extremely important because it will spice up your phrasing a lot and once again also help with fretboard visualization, because you're not just always visualizing one arpeggio shape starting from the root. Now you're starting to learn how to play arpeggios from different notes, like playing an A minor shape from the minor 3rd or from the perfect 5th. And for step number 4, we're gonna do that for a major arpeggio. Check out how cool the starting point exercise sounds like for the major shapes. So I was using the same system, but instead of the minor 3rd and minor 7th in those shapes, I was playing the major 3rd and the major 7th to get the major 7th arpeggio. So root note, major 3rd, perfect 5th, and major 7th. You should know this first shape by now that starts out with the root note. But then I'm playing the major arpeggio from the major 3rd, which sounds really cool. So once again, same notes, but different order. Started from the 2nd note in the arpeggio. Then I'm starting from the perfect 5th. Very cool shape. And then once again, to conclude the phrase, from the root note, but 1 octave higher. So here's the entire exercise. First shape, second shape, third shape, and then concluding starting from the root note 1 octave higher. So for steps 3 and 4 in this practice plan, you will focus on playing arpeggios not always from the root note. You will internalize playing arpeggio shapes from all possible starting notes, like also from the 3rd, 5th, and even the 7th. And for this one, I also want you to focus on not always using the same shapes for that, because there are also different ways for the shape that starts from the 3rd. You can play that in different fingerings. Obviously also for the ones starting from the 5th and the 7th. So if you have 10 to 15 minutes a day for both of these steps as well, so playing minor 7th and major 7th arpeggios, not just from the root note, but from all possible starting notes, this will be absolutely insane for your repertoire when it comes to licks, because you will see so many different options whenever you're improvising. And this is exactly what separates the professional players from the amateurs. And now for the 5th and most important step of this practice plan. So this is actually what you're working for this hard. This is the most important step that you want to study every single day. Before I'm showing this one to you, I want you to know that I made a very special practice package for today's video. You can download this one in my online guitar academy on Patreon. The link is down below in the description and in the first comment, patreon.com/Bernd. Because it's one thing to just watch YouTube videos like this one and then forget about them one day after. I think this is not what you want. You are looking for real, system for guaranteed progress, and that's why I make these downloadable packages every single week for my students. So this practice package comes with backing tracks, guitar profiles, PDF tab sheets and play-along videos. You can download all of that, so that at the start of your practice routine you just have to sit down, click on the files and practice together with me and the over 40,000 happy students I could teach in my online academy so far will all agree with me when I tell you this is the fastest and most fun way of making progress on the instrument. So let's take your playing to professional level together. I can't wait to welcome you as well in my online guitar academy. Just click the link down below, patreon.com/Bernd, and download this week's practice package right away. Now here's the very important step number 5. Check out this awesome sounding exercise. I think you will agree with me when I say this was the best sounding exercise so far. It sounded very musical and practical and not just like an exercise. The reason for that is that this is basically what the final application of everything that you learned about today will be about. Being able to see and play the arpeggio shapes on all steps in a practical context when it comes to chord progressions. So for this example, I was just working in the key of A minor, because it's a very common key that you're hopefully familiar with. And for every note in the scale, so A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, I was playing the arpeggio shape only using notes that I can find within the A minor scale. So for the first shape, it's obviously going to be an A minor 7th arpeggio, the one that you've played a couple of times by now. Root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, minor 7th, but then on the second note we will have this really cool sounding shape. Since I'm only allowed to work with the notes of the A minor scale when I'm building these arpeggios, I end up with root note, minor 3rd, diminished 5th and minor 7th. So that's the shape for the second note. For the third note we have root note, major 3rd, perfect 5th and major 7th. So major 7th arpeggio. Then for the fourth note for D, root note, minor 3rd, perfect 5th and minor 7th. So minor 7th arpeggio. Then for E, another minor 7th arpeggio. For F, major 7th arpeggio. For G, we have another major arpeggio, but this time with a minor 7th on top, which is super interesting. So a dominant 7th arpeggio, and then I'm ending with A minor again, 1 octave higher on top. And this exercise sounds so good and musical because you can actually hear the chords in real time, so all the chords in the key of A minor, because I'm playing the notes in those chords with the arpeggios that I build. So minor, diminished, major, minor, minor, major, major again, dominant, and minor on top. So for the 5th and most important step in this routine, I want you to do this for multiple keys. Feel free to start out with A minor and C major, the most basic keys. And I want you to play all notes in the scale in just 1 octave. So in our example it was A, B, C, D, E, F and G, just in this 1 octave until I reach A again. And then for all the scale notes you will play the root, 3rd, 5th and 7th by only using the notes you can find in this exact scale position that you're working on. And that way when you're improvising or writing guitar solos, you will always easily be able to accent chord changes because you can already see the arpeggio shapes for every single chord in the key, which is insanely powerful. And this is exactly what will make playing, writing, improvising or just working with guitar solos of any kind extremely easy for you. But that will only be possible if you actually practice these exercises, starting with step number 1 every single day and moving all the way to step number 5. To help you out with that as much as I possibly can, I put together this week's practice package just for you. You can download the full package on patreon.com/bernd with the link down below. Once again, this new package has everything you need when it comes to actually taking action and really practicing this every single day. You get the PDF tab sheets, guitar profiles, backing tracks and play along videos. All of that for less than the price of pizza a month. And on Patreon you also get access to my premium 30-day guitar courses as well. So it's a no-brainer. Click the link down below. I will see you on Patreon and have a lot of fun giving this practice routine a try. I think it will be a life changer for you. See you soon. Greetings from LA and bye bye.